Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Easy English Podcast. I'm Hannah, and as always, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Alex.
Hey, Hannah, and hello to all of our amazing listeners tuning in from all around the world today. It is great to be here with you.
We have a really great topic today, Alex. It's about two little words that cause big headaches for so many English learners. I hear students mix them up all the time. I'm talking about say and tell.
Yes, the classic say versus tell debate. It is a super common mistake. But the good news is, once you learn the golden rule, it becomes so much easier.
A golden rule? That sounds perfect. Tell me more. Or should I say me more?
See, you just showed us the exact problem. Say me more sounds a bit strange to a native speaker. The correct way is indeed tell me more. And that actually leads us right into the golden rule.
Okay, I'm ready. What is this secret rule?
It all comes down to the person. Who are you speaking to? With tell, we almost always name the person or the listener right after the verb. With say, we usually focus on the words themselves, not the person receiving them.
Oh, so tell needs a person and say doesn't. Is it really that simple?
It really is. Let's look at a quick example. If I want to talk about information you gave me, I can say, Hannah told me a secret. See how me comes right after told?
Right. Told is just the past tense of tell. So Hannah told me. Me is the person.
Exactly. But if I use say in the past tense, which is said, I would say, Hannah said that she was tired. Notice how there is no me or him or her right after said.
Ah, I see. Hannah said that she was tired. There is no person directly after said. But wait, what if I really want to include the person with say? Can I do that?
You can, but you need a little helper word. That word is to. So you can't say, Hannah said me she was tired. That is a very common mistake. Instead, you must say, Hannah said to me that she was tired.
Oh, that is a huge difference. Let me repeat those two so I can feel them in my ears. Hannah told me, or Hannah said to me.
Perfect. You've got it. Tell connects directly to the person. Say needs to connect to the person.
Let's practice this with some everyday situations because I know our listeners love concrete examples. Imagine we are at work. My boss wants to give me some news. Would I say, my boss told me about the meeting, or my boss said me about the meeting?
The first one is correct. My boss told me about the meeting. Remember, said me is a no-go zone. If you want to use said there, you could say, my boss said that we have a meeting.
Okay, that makes sense. My boss said that we have a meeting. No person is mentioned after said, it's just the information.
Yes, you are focusing on the message itself. Tell is more about transferring that message to a specific person.
This is actually much simpler than I thought. But what about when we are asking questions? For example, when someone says something quietly and I didn't hear them. Do I ask, what did you tell? Or what did you say?
Great question. In that case, you should ask, what did you say? Because you were asking about the words they used. If you said, what did you tell? It feels incomplete. A native speaker would think, tell who? Tell what?
Ah, because tell always feels like it's looking for that object, that person, to receive the story. So, what did you say is perfect?
Exactly. You are asking for the words. Now, if you wanted to know about a story someone was sharing, you might ask, what did you tell him? Or, what did you tell the doctor? Notice how we naturally add the person at the end there.
Right. Tell him or tell the doctor. This is really helping me visualize it. Let's think of another one. How about when we talk about a joke? Do we say a joke or tell a joke?
We always tell a joke. That's actually a fixed expression or a collocation. Even if we don't name the person immediately, tell is always used with jokes, stories, and the truth.
Oh, interesting. So there are some special exceptions where we use tell even without a person right after it.
Yes, but they are very specific. You tell a story, tell a joke, tell the truth, and tell a lie. Think of them as a package deal. You can't say a story or say a lie. It just doesn't work in English.
That is so good to know. Let's make a quick mental list of those. Tell a story, tell a joke, tell the truth, and tell a lie. I'm going to write those down in my mind.
And the great thing is, even with those, there is usually an implied listener. If you are telling a joke, you are usually telling it to someone, right?
By the way, if you are enjoying this episode, taking a second to subscribe or like the video really helps us reach more English learners around the world.
It really does. And please leave your grammar questions in the comments. We read and reply to them all. Anyway, back to our verbs.
That's true. You don't usually tell a joke to an empty room unless you are practicing your stand-up comedy.
Exactly. So the idea of a listener is still very strong with tell.
That makes so much sense. But Alex, let's talk about the big monster in the room, the one that always makes my brain freeze. Reported speech. You know, when we are talking about what someone else said, I always get confused here. Should I say, he said me that he was tired, or he told me that he was tired?
Ah, the classic reported speech trap. You are definitely not alone here, Hannah. This is where almost every learner makes a mistake at least once. The correct sentence is, he told me that he was tired. Or you can say, he said that he was tired. Do you hear the difference there?
Let me listen closely. He told me, and he said. Ah, in the first one, you have me, which is the person listening. In the second one, there is no me. It's just he said and then the information.
Spot on, you nailed it. If you want to include the listener, the pronoun like me, him, her, us, or them, you must use tell. So, he told me he was leaving. If you don't want to include the listener, you use say. He said he was leaving. It is a very simple rule, but we often forget it when we're speaking quickly.
So I can never say, he said me?
Never. He said me is 100% incorrect. If you really want to use say with a person, you have to add a tiny word. You have to say to. For example, he said to me that he was tired. But honestly, Hannah, native speakers don't say that very often. It sounds a bit formal and heavy. It is much more natural to just say, he told me.
Okay, so he said to me is grammatically correct, but in real life, he told me is the winner. It sounds much friendlier and more natural.
Exactly. He told me is what you will hear in 95% of everyday conversations. Let's practice this right now. I will give you a sentence with a mistake, and you try to correct it. Ready?
Oh, a pop quiz. I love these. Bring it on, Alex.
Okay, here's the first one. She said her mother that she was going to the supermarket.
She said her mother. Her mother is the listener here. Since we have a listener directly after the verb, we cannot use said alone. We should use told. So the correct sentence is, she told her mother that she was going to the supermarket.
Perfect. That is exactly correct. Now, what if we remove her mother from the sentence? How would you say it then?
If we don't mention the mother, we just have the information. So we use say. The sentence becomes, she said that she was going to the supermarket. Did I get it?
You got it. 2 for 2. You are a natural at this. Let's try another one because this is where it gets tricky. What about this? My boss told that the meeting was canceled.
Ooh, let me think. My boss told that the meeting was canceled. In this sentence, there is no listener. It doesn't say who the boss told, it just goes straight to the information. So told is wrong here. We should use said. The correct way is, my boss said that the meeting was canceled.
Amazing! You are totally right. And if you wanted to keep the word told, what would you have to add?
I would have to add a listener, like us or me. So I could say, my boss told us that the meeting was canceled, or my boss told me that the meeting was canceled.
Exactly. It is all about whether that listener is sitting right next to the verb. Now, let's talk about why we make this mistake. I think a lot of learners translate directly from their own native languages. In many languages, there's only one verb for both say and tell. So when they speak English, they just pick one and use it for everything.
Yes, that is so true. In my head, I often just want to express the action of speaking, and I don't think about the structure of the sentence beforehand. By the time I realize I need a listener, I've already used say.
That is a very common thing to happen. A good trick to train your brain is to practice small chunks of language, rather than trying to remember the grammar rules every time you speak. Instead of thinking, okay, I need a verb plus an object pronoun, just memorize the sound of he told me, she told me, they told us.
Oh, like a musical phrase. If you repeat, he told me, he told me, he told me enough times, then saying he said me will just sound wrong to your ears.
Yes, exactly. Our ears are great at learning patterns. If you train your ears to expect me after told, you will automatically feel like something is missing if you try to say, he told that, or if you say, he said me. It's all about building that muscle memory in your tongue and your ears.
I love that idea of muscle memory. Let's do a little repeat after me exercise for our listeners and for me. I will say a correct phrase, and then you can explain a little bit about why it works, or we can just chant them together.
Let's do a quick chant. I will say the say version and you say the tell version with a pronoun. For example, if I say it, you say tell me. Ready?
Okay, let's try it.
He said he was happy.
He told me he was happy.
They said they were lost.
They told us they were lost.
She said she was coming.
She told him she was coming.
Perfect. Do you feel the rhythm of those?
Yes, totally. The told sentences always have a quick little word right after them. Told me, told us, told him. It flows so quickly.
Exactly. And notice how me, us, and him are all object pronouns. We never say, he told I, or they told we. It is always the object form because the person is receiving the information.
Right. That makes total sense. So we have this general rule now. We use say when we are focusing on the words, and we use tell when we are focusing on the person receiving those words. But of course, English always has those little exceptions, doesn't it? I feel like there are times when we use tell even if we aren't focusing on a specific person, or when the rule just feels a bit different.
You have a great instinct, Hannah. Yes, there are absolutely exceptions, or what we call set phrases and idioms. These are expressions where the verb is fixed. You cannot change it, even if you think the grammar rule says otherwise. And the most common ones are actually with the verb tell.
Oh, really? Like what? Give me one of these fixed phrases so I can see what you mean.
The classic example is tell the truth. We always say tell the truth. For example, you must always tell the truth. We do not say the truth.
Ah, yes. Tell the truth. I hear that all the time in movies. Are you telling the truth?
Exactly. And notice something interesting here. In the question, are you telling the truth? There is no person after telling. We don't say, are you telling me the truth? Well, you can say that, but you don't have to. You can just say, are you telling the truth? And it is perfectly correct. This breaks our main rule where tell usually needs an object pronoun like me or him.
That is so true. So tell the truth is just a package deal. You have to memorize it as one unit.
Exactly. It is a package deal. And the opposite is also a package deal. Tell a lie or tell lies. For example, don't trust him. He always tells lies. Or did she tell a lie?
Wow, so tell the truth and tell a lie. Both of them use tell. What about say? Can we ever say a lie?
No, never. Saying he said a lie sounds very unnatural to a native speaker. We would immediately know what you mean, but it just sounds off. It must be he told the lie.
Okay, I am writing those down in my mental notebook. Tell the truth and tell a lie. Are there other ones like this?
There are quite a few. Another very common one is tell a story. Parents tell stories to their children at night. Or if you have an interesting experience, you might tell a story to your friends.
Ah, tell a story. Yes, that makes sense. My grandfather used to tell us amazing stories. Wait, in that sentence, I used us anyway.
You did, and that is great. But even if you remove us, you can say, my grandfather loved to tell stories. It still works perfectly. But you can never say a story.
Right, say a story sounds super weird, even to me now that I think about it. What about tell the time? I think I've heard that before, like, can you tell the time?
Yes, absolutely. Tell the time has two meanings, actually. It can mean looking at a clock and knowing what time it is, which is a skill children learn. For example, my 5-year-old son is learning to tell the time. Or it can mean simply asking someone what time it is. Like, can you tell me the time, please?
Ooh, that's a good one. Tell the time. And again, we don't say the time.
Exactly. What about tell a joke? Do you know that one?
Yes, tell a joke. He told a really funny joke at the party. That's another one where we don't need to say who he told it to. We just say he told a joke.
Perfect. You're getting the hang of this. Let's do a quick recap of these tell phrases because they are so important. We have tell the truth, tell a lie, tell a story, tell the time, and tell a joke.
That is a great list. It actually makes it easier to remember because they are all things that involve giving information or sharing a narrative. A story, a lie, the truth, a joke. They're all like little pieces of content that you share.
That is a wonderful way to think about it, Hannah. Yes, they are all pieces of content or information that you are transmitting to the world. Now, let's look at the other side. Are there fixed expressions with say that might surprise our listeners?
Ooh, yes. Let's hear them. What are the say exceptions?
One very common one is say a prayer. People say a prayer before they eat or when they are going through a difficult time. We never tell a prayer.
Ah, say a prayer. Yes, that sounds very natural. Is it because a prayer is just words that you speak rather than information you are sharing with someone else?
Yes, exactly. You are focusing on the words themselves, the act of speaking them, rather than transmitting information to another person in a conversation. Another one is say hello or say goodbye.
Wait, say hello? So if I see my friend, I say hello to her?
Yes, say hello to someone. For example, please say hello to your mother for me. Or he left without saying goodbye.
Ah, yes. Say goodbye. We can't tell goodbye, right?
Definitely not. Tell goodbye is incorrect. It must be say goodbye. Another one that is quite common, especially in discussions or arguments, is say a word. For example, don't say a word, or she didn't say a word all night.
Oh, say a word makes sense because a word is literally the basic unit of language. So you are focusing entirely on the words. Don't say a word. I like that one.
Yes, it fits the rule perfectly, even though it is a fixed expression. What about say yes or say no?
She said yes to his proposal. Or just say no if you don't want to go. Yes, those are very common.
Exactly. You say yes and you say no. You can also say sorry. For example, you should say sorry for breaking her vase.
Oh, say sorry. That's a great one for daily life. Children are always being told to say sorry.
They are. Say you're sorry or say sorry. So we have a great list for say too. Say a prayer, say hello, say goodbye, say your word, say yes, say no, and say sorry. If you notice, almost all of these are about the exact specific words being spoken. Hello, goodbye, yes, no, sorry.
That is such a clear distinction, Alex. With say, it is almost like you are quoting the exact word. Hello, yes, sorry. With tell, you are sharing a whole concept or package of information, like a story, a lie, or the truth.
You have summarized that absolutely beautifully, Hannah. That is probably the best way I have ever heard it explained. Say is for the exact words, and tell is for the package of information.
Thank you. I am really happy that makes sense. So let's play a little game to test this. I will give you a sentence with a blank, and you tell me, or should I say to you, which verb fits best?
Haha, I love that you caught yourself there. Yes, you tell me the sentence and I will say the answer. Let's do it.
Perfect. Here is the first one. Can you please blank me the time? Should it be say or tell?
Ah, that is a classic. It has to be tell. Can you please tell me the time? Why? Because we have a person right after the verb, me. Remember, we tell someone something. We wouldn't say, can you say me the time? That sounds very strange to an English speaker's ears.
That makes perfect sense. How about this one? What did he blank to you?
Ooh, this is a tricky one because of the word to. The answer is say. What did he say to you? We use say here because we have to before the person. If we wanted to use tell, we would have to remove the to and change the order. What did he tell you?
Ah, that is such a common trap for learners. Let me repeat those two so everyone can hear the difference clearly. What did he say to you? And what did he tell you? Both are correct, but the grammar structure is different because of that tiny word to.
Spot on, Hannah. If you see the preposition to before the pronoun or person, your brain should immediately think of say. He said to me that he was tired, or she said to her mother that she would be late. It's much more common, though, to just use tell in those situations. He told me he was tired, or she told her mother she would be late.
Yes, tell feels much more direct and natural in those daily conversations. Let's try another one. What about this? She blank that she loved the book.
That would be said. She said that she loved the book. There is no person directly after the verb, just the word that, which is actually optional. You could also say she said she loved the book. If we wanted to use tell, we would need to add a listener. She told me she loved the book.
This is really becoming second nature now. Let's do a fast-paced round. I will say a short sentence with a gap, and you answer quickly. Ready?
I am ready. Bring it on.
First one. Don't blank lies.
Tell. Don't tell lies. It is one of our special expressions.
Great. Next. He blank goodbye and left.
Said. He said goodbye because goodbye is the exact word he spoke.
Awesome. Next. Can you blank me how to get to the station?
Tell. Can you tell me how to get to the station? We have the listener, me, right after the verb, and we are asking for directions, which is a package of information.
You are on fire, Alex. What about this? They blank, they were coming at 8 o'clock.
Said. They said they were coming at 8 o'clock. No personal object directly after the verb.
Exactly. What about she always blank the truth?
Tells. She always tells the truth. Another special collocation with the truth.
Last one. I want to blank something about my new project.
Ooh, nice one. It is say. I want to say something about my new project. We can also say something, say nothing, or say anything. Those are very common expressions too.
That was an amazing practice round. I think our listeners are probably shouting out the answers with you now. It really helps to hear them one after the other. It builds a kind of rhythm in your mind, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Language learning is so much about rhythm and patterns. Once you hear say to me and tell me enough times, your brain starts to automatically prefer the correct one because the incorrect one just sounds off or unbalanced.
Yes, and that is why we always encourage our listeners to listen to natural conversations as much as possible. Don't just memorize grammar rules from a book. Listen to how native speakers use these verbs in real contexts.
Exactly. Let's do a very quick summary for our listeners to take away today. Rule number 1. Use say when you want to focus on the words spoken. He said, I am hungry. Or when there is no direct personal object. He said he was hungry. Rule number 2. Use tell when you want to focus on the information being passed to a specific person. He told me he was hungry. Rule number 3, remember the special exceptions. We tell stories, jokes, lies, the truth, secrets, and the time. We say hello, goodbye, yes, no, sorry, a prayer, and please.
And rule number 4, which is my favorite little trick, if you see the word to before the person, use say. He said to me. If there is no to, use tell. He told me.
That is the perfect golden rule, Hannah. Simple, clear, and easy to remember.
Well, we have covered so much today. I feel like we have really demystified these two little verbs. It is amazing how much depth there is to words we use every single day, often without even thinking about them.
It really is. And to all our wonderful listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Easy English Podcast. Don't worry if you still make mistakes with say and tell sometimes. It is a completely normal part of the learning process. The more you practice, the easier it gets.
Yes, keep practicing, keep listening, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. We would love to hear from you. Why don't you try writing a sentence using say or tell in the comments or notes? We will check them out.
That is a great idea. Write a sentence and show us what you've learned today. Until next time, keep smiling, keep practicing your English, and we will talk to you very soon.